The Betrayal Chapter 4. As school starts the next morning, I can't help but feel the day drag on, my back slowing me down in everything I do. Star didn't miss the chance to say she told me so as soon as I mentioned it. "Did you hear the teacher misspeak today?" Carl said, smiling as we sat at the same table at lunch. Star groans as she picks at her sandwich. "She was totally about to talk about a new student." He smiles wider. "Which means a new friend." I rolled my eyes, looking at Star. I caught her eyes as she looked towards me, fear in hers. I sigh and smile. "Don't worry, I don't think it'll be her." I lied to Star. I felt that it was going to be Ava. Both of us did. At least Clinton and Carl thought of it in a good light. "Ha! Do you need friends that badly?" Clinton said, putting up a stubborn front. We all looked at him, knowing he was desperate to make friends as Carl was. He groans and turns away slightly. Okay, geez. I hope they're nice at least." He grumbles while taking a bite of his sandwich. I laugh softly, picking at mine. I gulp. If anything is going to make that lie to Star convincing, it would be eating the sandwich and not looking so worried about it. I groan and smile at Star. "It appears I've lost my appetite," I say softly. The idea of trying to eat made my stomach turn. I'd rather not take chances. As we continued to sit and talk, I noticed the tension between the group. Clinton was sitting across from me, but there was a weight that seemed to fall on everyone's shoulders. Carl and Star both glanced between us too. I mean, it was awkward being seen around him, but not necessarily bad. We talked it out, he stopped being crazy, and we're friends now. That's what matters to me. And I would feel pretty bad if Star and Carl stopped being friends. They match each other's energies pretty well. I doubt Star would let Clinton in, though. I was so lost in thought. The bell that was now ringing in my ears made me jump, my magic shooting to the surface. Thankfully, I was able to hold it down enough that I didn't jump into my demon form, but I could still see fear in Clinton's eyes as mine changed black. I closed them and sank in my seat, groaning as I calmed down. I mumbled sorry as I heard him relax across from me. There was so much we still had to get over, but it'll take time, like many other things. I glanced at my hands, the soft redness of my protective magic fading. Many other things. The school day ended, and I decided to sit on the bench in the field, feeding the scraps of my sandwich to some birds. I hear Ira shout from across the field, my name carried in the wind. I look up, still tossing a few breadcrumbs and nibbling on some. I saw Ira running towards me, and it was a large field, so the birds hadn't budged yet. It wasn't until I lifted my hand to wave at her before they all scattered. "Aw," I mumbled, looking towards the birds, some still trying to fight over crumbs as they flew. "Emma!" she gasped, slightly out of breath as she stopped in front of me. "I saw you during lunch. Sorry I didn't say hi, but are you okay?" She worriedly looked up at me. I tilted my head, confused at her words. "Yeah, why?" She stood there, dumbfounded at my response. "Because Clinton was right across the table from you!" she yelled. I laughed, a big hearty laugh as I realized I'd forgot to tell her what happened between us. She continued to stare at me, her anger fading to confusion fast. "Oh, jeez. Sorry for laughing, but..." I wiped the tears from my eyes as I catch my breath. "I didn't remember to tell you. After all the chaos of going to my own town, I must have forgotten." She sits down on the bench beside me. "Well then, what happened between you two? I mean, he tried to kill you just a few weeks ago. You and Star," she said sharply. I felt my hands get red at the thought of the fight again, and I just shoved them in my pockets and continued smiling, knowing that it's over. "Well..." I tell her what happened between the last 2 times we've been near each other, outside of school. The park where everyone was celebrating that I was okay. The next day, when they confessed in their ambush. So I really wasn't happy about that one, but happy about the way it turned out. The few times we've been stuck together in class helped us grow tolerant of each other, and now where we are now. As I talked softly, some of the birds came back. I absentmindedly fed them until I was finished talking, and out of bread. Ira chuckled. "So you guys are friends now?" I laughed, thinking about it. I wouldn't call us friends, but we are getting there. I hated the idea of having enemies, so it was nice to think that it was changing. The calmness of that thought filled my mind. My tired body feels heavy on the bench. I rest my head back and close my eyes, enjoying the sun rays on my face. And before I knew it, I was asleep. Although, when I opened my eyes, I felt nothing but dread. My mindscape surrounded me, the deep purples and blues swirling around me. I turned around, waiting for a dream, or a nightmare, growing used to this in-between space. However, when time passed, I realized nothing was happening. I turned around in a circle, searching for something, and then I hear soft footsteps behind me. I quickly turn around, expecting it to be Clinton in some twisted nightmare from the conversations I had just before I fell asleep. But instead, I see the wolf again. His silver, sorrow-filled eyes were tainted red with anger as he looked at me. His hollow voice rang through my ears when he spoke. "This plan won't go as you intended to." His words struck anger into my eyes. My body tensed up, ready to fight him. "It will corrupt the one you love the most. Star is still in danger." I throw my hands up. "For hell's sake, what do you mean?" I walk towards him angrily. His ears tilt back as his stern expression turns to anger. "Just tell me, please!" I beg, my anger turning to sadness as he turns away from me. "Please, tell me how I can protect her." I fell to my knees, fear in my shaking body. I don't want her hurt because of me again." I heard him whisper something I wish I could get out of my ears. This sign of some sort, this magic user who knows something about what's going to happen, leads me to believe there must be something I can do. Then crashing it all down by not knowing what I need to do. "I wish I knew," he mumbled as the black faded to white. I felt tears in my eyes as I awoke. Ira standing over me looking really concerned, her hand on my shoulder. I met her eyes. Tears still formed in mine before I sighed and rubbed them away. "Are you okay? That seemed really bad. Star wasn't lying when she said you have bad nightmares." I chuckle at Ira's words, knowing that it wasn't anywhere near close to a bad nightmare, let alone a nightmare at all. I felt my hands shaking with anger. I'm fine," I say, with more anger than I wanted before looking back up at her. "Sorry, it's just... I'm okay," I mumbled before looking past her. Star, Clinton, and Carl running towards us. My eyes widen as the scene shifts around me, memories replaying in my mind. Clinton chasing after Star, the distance making it hard to see the expressions on her face before it was replaced with fear. Carl chased after her, just as fast as Clinton. I grabbed my necklace tightly, trying to ground myself, knowing it's not real. Trying to convince myself it's not real. I couldn't tear my eyes away from the scene replaying in my head. I was frozen with fear and anger, staring at Star as she continued to run towards me, the laughter of them all drowned out by my screaming thoughts to save her. I made a last-ditch attempt to save them from myself by shutting my eyes as I felt my feet plant themselves. I cry out in pain as my demon form pushes itself out, surging pain through my spine, making me keel over, wrapping my arms around my stomach as I muffle a cry. "Emma!" Star's scream only added fuel to the fire, the same way she screamed when that knife plunged into my chest. I choke out a cry as a false pain flows through my chest, my scar feeling weak, my wings curled around me, my tail wrapped around Ira's leg, wanting to do something to protect her too, but unable to think at all. I was almost happy my mind knew she wasn't a threat, until it continued to search my mind. Memories flared up as my eyes turned black. I quickly unwound my tail from her leg as it twitched, hitting it accidentally on the bench. The thoughts of Ava and Ira and their plans, I grabbed my horns painfully grounding myself, doing anything I can. I heard only 2 pairs of footsteps towards me now. They were soft, nowhere near as heavy as Clinton's. I only feared the reaction I had towards him. "Emma, please focus, you're okay," Star yelled as she came closer. "What's happening to her?" Ira yelled towards Star. I felt tears dripping down my face. Carl, what are you doing?" Clinton yelled. His voice was filled with anger and fear as I heard 1 pair of footsteps speeding up. I felt fear filled my body. Carl, don't! That's not a good idea! You could get hurt!" Star's voice rang out. I felt my fingers pressing into my head and horns as I grabbed tighter. "Carl!" Star's voice rang out, in an extremely concerned tone. I heard the footsteps get louder towards me, almost deafening, like a stampede running towards me. I felt my magic surge up, fire coming to my palms, my tail flickering angrily, my wings burst outwards at the touch that surrounded me now. My angry, blackened eyes stared past the body in front of me. My mind switches between knowing I'm safe and fearing for my life as I see a few strands of Carl's hair in front of my eyes. I look past him to see Clinton still in the middle of the field, fear in his gaze as he stares at us. Carl shook slightly before his hand settled on my back. My shaking body still wanted to form fire in my hands. Star stood a few meters away, her body still as a gasp was trapped in her lungs. Ira was staring at us in the same way. I felt my blackened eyes and the pressure they caused start to fade as Carl softly spoke. "You are safe here, I promise." I felt tears form in my eyes as they returned to white. My wings softly let themselves down, relaxing against the bench. I wrapped my arms around Carl, crying softly, regret replacing the burning feeling in my hands. I knew he wasn't a threat, but it hurt so much to see both of them scared of me hurting them instead. I flinch as I hear Clinton yell the moment I wrap my arms around him. His footsteps sped up before he was at a full run towards me. His footsteps slowed down once he got close enough to realize Carl wasn't in pain. I hadn't realized how much I was saying I was sorry until I felt my mouth get tired, the repetitive phrases coming to my ears as they rang. Clinton calmly stood beside Star and Ira. Carl patted my back softly. I was so scared of moving, scared of hurting him. I knew he was only following in Clinton's footsteps. He didn't mean anything that happened. Star put her hand on my head, gently on my horns. It was a grounding technique she used to remind me that it's okay to change back whenever I could, if I felt I needed to. I take a soft breath in and turn back into my human form. Clinton's shoulders seem to relax once I do. Once Carl pulled away softly, he smiled proudly at me. His helpful personality shone through. I snicker softly at his cute smile, flinching and feeling my eyes turning black when I see Clinton grab his shoulders tightly, turning him around and glaring at him. "What the hell were you thinking?" Clinton's voice made us all jump. His loud voice rang through my ears in a way that made his fear and worried tones seem the loudest. I could see the others heard it too. "She could have killed you, and you know that!" I saw fear in his eyes as he crouched down slightly to meet Carl's. There was a silence before Star spoke up. "He's right." They all look at her almost scared. "You did a great job grounding her, but as one of her former enemies, that was stupid, and you could have easily gotten killed. But it's nice to see how far she's come at controlling her powers." Star smiled at me, her warm tones on her face as she calmed me down, her nice words making me smile. "It wasn't easy," I grumble, a soft chuckle afterwards trying to lighten the mood. I heard Clinton sigh, and as I looked up I couldn't help but smile at him as he hugged Carl. In a protective hug. I saw his finger tightly gripping the back of his shirt, the painful tinge to his closed eyes. If I wasn't reading his lips, I wouldn't have ever known what he said. "I don't want to lose the only family that's accepted me." I forced down some tears, almost chuckling at the familiarity of his words. I felt a shiver run up my spine as I glanced at Ira, sitting there with the same warm smile I had towards Clinton and Carl. I sighed, knowing we needed to talk about it, but not knowing where to start, not wanting to break the peace. The moment I decided to speak up, I saw Ira flinch and look at me. Wait, I have something for you." Everyone looks at her while she grabs a piece of paper out of her pocket. It has the plans she made on it. I don't understand a lot of it, but it has some words they told us to say. A spell, I think. I wrote them down how they're pronounced, but I don't think they're written right." Clinton and Carl sat down, talking softly about how stupid Carl was being. I focused my attention on the Ira. "There was a meeting place, too." I took the note. It folded out more than I thought it would. It made my heart sink. "I'll think of what we can do after I study this a bit," I mumbled, trying hard to keep my thoughts centered. I felt myself shaking a bit again before I shoved the note down into my pocket. I couldn't help but smile as our friend's words echoed in my head. Demons, Spells, and Knowledge is a book Dad had for me. If that's the one she's using, I could search for a counterspell in it. Or something. Well, I mumbled, looking between the others, I can't do any studying and planning till I'm back home. Why don't we relax and hang out for a bit? I smiled. I could see Clinton smile slightly. I saw the optimistic look from Carl as he pulled Clinton off the bench. Come on, it'll be fun, he said, trying to bring a bigger smile to Clinton's face. Okay, Shrimp, Clinton mumbled softly. We played for a while longer in the field. The sun started to set by the time Star and I headed home. As I played with the crumpled up paper in my pocket, I sighed and looked at the darkening sky. Ready for tomorrow? Star said softly. She noticed my fidgeting and put her hand on my shoulder. I sighed and chuckled, my hand feeling hot. Not at all. And if it is her, and God, I hope it isn't. I felt my jaw get tight as I slowly brought my hand out of my pocket and ran it through my hair. Then we're screwed, I chuckled again. A nervous laugh continued from my throat. I could do all the planning in the world, all the reading to catch up on these spells, the studying of magic I was sheltered from in this world, everything. I could do everything. I felt my eyes go black as we stood in the back alleyway, feet from our gate. Nothing would be enough to face her, to save anyone from her. Someone's gonna get hurt, and God, I hope it's me. Hey, don't think that. Star grabbed my shoulders softly, standing in front of me, a stern yet sad look to her eyes. What? I snap at her, sadness filling mine. Would you rather I help Ira or you get hurt? I take a shaky breath in, my hands in tight fists to ground myself. I will do everything I can to protect you guys. I'm going to study this spell, although it seems pointless, and I'm going to find a way to counter it. I take a deep breath in and walk past her, my hand tight in my pockets now, tightly holding the paper. I'm going to fix this and protect you guys, I grumble as I walk into the house. I heard her sigh as she walked in behind me. I grab my books from under my bed, shaking slightly as my hand grazes past the knife I wish I did a better job at forgetting about. I stubbornly grab all the spell books left by my dad and make my wings appear. The night sky was dark enough that no one could see me as I approached the window. Emma, Star said softly. I felt a shiver run up my back. The dark room and her soft and sad voice rang out behind me. It felt like the start of a nightmare I've had before. I put my books down on the windowsill and turned to look at her. She had a blanket in her hands as she walked towards me. Please. She put the blanket on the windowsill beside the books before turning back to me. Her tired eyes looked into mine. Fear filled the blue colors that shone brightly against the dark room. Please let me know what I can do to help. You know I don't want to lose you as much as you don't want to lose me. She wrapped her arms around me tightly. I'm scared, Emma. I stared past her for a few moments, my shaking hands wrapping around her as well. I know, sis, I mumbled as a sharp and shaky breath filled my lungs. I'll fix this. We stood there a few more moments, worriedly trying to get each other to calm down before Star started to sway, her body unable to hold herself up any longer. Get to bed. I'll sleep soon, I say, pulling away from her and turning to grab my books and the blanket she set aside for me. I turned to see her sitting on her bed, looking up at me, pouting softly. I sigh and turn away, flying out the window and landing on the roof of our house softly. I sat there for a few hours, my tired eyes and the long blinks that followed every flip of a page. I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to keep thinking about that wolf and whatever he wanted to plague my mind with tonight. I sat there, the blanket wrapped tightly around me as the wind blew. I found the spell after about an hour of reading. Of course, it was at the end of the book, and, worst of all, the words were in a different language, or font. I groaned and sat there for another hour or two, writing down ideas from the information I had. The best I was able to come up with was some movie-type trickery. At least Star looked a lot like me when her hair was down. If the spell is the right one, and I can only hope that it is, then it's only supposed to remove a demon from someone. If they have no demon, I can only assume it would do nothing. I felt like I was missing something, but at least I had an idea. After one abnormally long blink, I noticed myself lying down, the books scattered on the shingles around me. I grab my stuff and fly back inside, passing out almost immediately once I hit my pillows.